Let's see. Is we live? Okay. Hold on, y'all. We finna rock out. I'm just trying to make sure we live on the other end. All right. Can y'all see it? We live? I think we are. Say live stream. It's saying waiting for Kofi Piesie TV. So are we live? Give us 1 second, y'all. Let me make sure we live. I'm looking on my phone. It's showing like we aren't live, but let me go here. And we gonna rock and roll. Shoot. Okay.
Yeah, Kofi, we got it. You got it. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
All right. Well, we'll be right back.
I'm in the city, yeah. I'm in the spot, in the vicinity. I'm the hottest up in the city, yeah, it really is. I studied the ones that was the realest, the illest, that invented that. Talking about griots, West African passages for the street stone. Adios mio, make it get about the Afro-Latinos. Let's raise a toast to the ancestors of old. For the knowledge comes in the form of a griot. In the form of a griot.
All right. Welcome to the Griots Podcast. Let's give a round of applause for the Griots Podcast one time for. All right.
I like that energy.
So I'll let my beautiful sister start it out first by introducing herself, and then we'll follow behind her.
Yo, good and wonderful people. It's an amazing day in Dallas. My name is Dr. Ashley Wade. I am a pharmacist. I'm an author, co-host of this amazing podcast, The Griots. We are here to serve you today. I'm so excited to be a part of this crew. Let me see, community and literacy advocate. And, I'll be outside in the streets, you know what I'm saying, with the information, with the books, with the knowledge. And I'm looking forward to having a good time today with my bros. Sean P, take it away.
What up? What it is? Your man Sean P coming in live from the Sean P Experience. That's right. I'm the host of the Sean P Experience podcast. Also, one part of the three piece, the real big three, the Griots Podcast, community curator, host of Literacy and Libations, also host of Open Mic Poetry Night, instructor, communicator, writer, advocate, scholar, autodidact. How about that, Dr. Wade? Autodidact.
Okay.
We here to serve the people, man. We have a good time today. Let's do it.
Yes, no doubt. I am Kofi Piesie. I am an author, writer, a ghostwriter, a publisher, a content creator, amongst other things, autodidact, so many different things, man. But let's get into it, man. We got a great show for y'all today, man. Y'all please like and share the show, y'all. I think this will be some great content for people, student wise, people who are in the educational field, or people who just want to know, about this topic. Parents. Yes, about the parents, man. So before we get started, I always have to in fashion, I always just give a rundown of the outline. The outline. So the opening segment is honoring teachers, scholars, writers, authors, and revolutionaries from the past. That segment is by my brother Seanathan Polidore. The Griots and Griots segment is my segment. We always have to give y'all some information on what a Griot and Griots is, because everyone doesn't know what a Griot and Griots is. A commercial segment, which is a briefly promoting our books, our products, or anybody products or services, And discussion today we're going to be discussing the school to prison pipeline, right? And our final segment, which is my favorite segment, is the woman segment, where my sister, Dr. Ashley Wade, briefly talks and give flowers to women who are contributed something of value to the political world, writing world, author world, business world, medical world, and academia world, right? Yo, so again, man, please like and share the show. Please like and share the show. So we'll start the show off with our opening segment, which is by my brother Seanathan Polidore. So we'll turn it over to you.
All right, y'all. Peace, man. Today's opening segment. So, believe it or not, I'm always very strategic in the actual person I'm honoring and venerating for this section. And today's show being about the school to prison pipeline, I am highlighting our ancestral giant, Fred Gray, civil rights pioneer, Fred Gray, right? So let me give you a rundown on Fred Gray. Fred Gray, early life and education. Born in Montgomery, Alabama, Fred Gray dedicated his life to fighting for civil rights. After graduating from law school, he returned to his hometown to practice law. Legal battles. Gray represented iconic figures like Rosa Parks, Claudette Colvin in their landmark cases against segregation. He also played a pivotal role in the Montgomery bus boycott, working alongside Martin Luther King Jr. Civil rights activist. Gray's legal work extends beyond the courtroom. He was a vocal advocate for racial equality, participating in marches, protests, and other civil rights activities. His legacy. Gray's contributions to the civil rights movement are immeasurable. His courage and determination helped shape more and just equitable society, right? So, author and speaker. In recent years, Gray has become a sought-after author and speaker, sharing his experiences and insights with audiences around the world. I'm gonna tell y'all why I highlighted him, right? I'm reading this book recently, and it's about segregation and education. So, Fred Gray, the book is called The Forgotten Migration. We all know about the great migration that happened. You had millions of African Americans leaving the South to go to the North and the East and everything like that, the West, right? The other migration, the little known migration, the amount of black folks in the South that went to college for the undergrad degrees, but they couldn't go to grad school in some of these institutions. So these folks paid them money to go to school with other places to get their postgraduate degrees. So you had doctors, lawyers, dentists, etc. They had to go to school somewhere else to get those other degrees. And most of these black people, after their degrees, guess what they did? They were determined to come back where they were from and give back to their community. So Fred Gray, going to school after undergrad, he was determined to study law about Alabama while he was in graduate school, right? But the whole intent on, I'm gonna learn all this stuff in this university. I'm gonna go back to my hometown and fight racial injustices and all that. So it was like the spook that sat by the door kind of concept. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go to these schools. I'm gonna learn y'all stuff. I'm gonna learn the ins and outs of it. And I'm gonna go back to my people and bring it back to my people. So I was just really, really admire and applaud. And in the book, they gave his actual regimen. Like, he would go to class, his regular classes, then on his lunch break, and then late at night go to a study hall. He's studying additional stuff outside the curriculum with the intent on bringing it back. I just really admire that kind of intellectual determination and the rigor it takes to do that, man. So I just wanted to highlight that for today's opening segment.
Yes, I love that. That's as I learn, we all learn right there, man. That's each one teach one, right? So that's going back and going into learning whatever he has to learn and then bringing it back to the people. So I love that as well, man. Shout out to that brother. He's not is he an ancestor now, Sean?
I think Fred Gray is still with us. I think I'm gonna double check that. I'm gonna fact check that.
Okay. Well, shout out right now. We'll just say shout out to that brother for doing that, man. As I learn, we all learn. Each one teach one.
I've never heard of Fred Gray. So like this goes back to the idea of sharing information and bringing up our ancestors and our legacy of people who were doing amazing things. So shout out to Fred Gray for pulling through and bringing that information
Well, they
back.
say he's 93 years old, like he's still alive today. 93 years old. He's an elder, one of our esteemed elders, and shout out to him and his family, his legacy. And you can find a ton of books on Fred Gray. Like, he was behind the scenes for a lot of major things. If his name not on the front side of it, he was in the ears, he was advising, he was mentoring a lot of big names, man.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, shout out to the brother, man. The elder. There. So shout out to the where, or what we would say. All right. So let's go into the Griots and Griots segment real quick. We're gonna get into the school to prison pipeline. Y'all bear with us. We gotta follow the script. So Griot and Griots, again, we just always want to briefly inform, you know what I'm saying, those who may be aware and those who may not be aware, right? You know, so real quick, a Griot or Griots, I'm just gonna sum it up. So a Griot and Griots, a lot of us know what a Griot and Griots is. A Griot and Griots is a English and African word, or African word. It is someone. It is not just someone who was a storyteller. A Griot, a Griots is one who is a mediator, one who is a storyteller, one who is a teacher, one who is a warrior, one who is an advisor, a musician, and etc. So those are some of the roles and the functions of a Griot and a Griots. So let's go on to the promotion segment. So we want to promote. Let's just promote the acting on our dreams and vision. This book right here, man, is this is a special project. Real quick, so if you don't got, and we got the shirts on right here too. So acting on your dreams and your visions.
He had that on.
Yes, sir. I forgot we had a shirt on. But acting on your dreams and your visions right here. So if you don't have acting on your dreams and vision, go get the book Acting on Your Dreams and your visions. Again, we have got a lot of great reviews behind this Acting on Your Dreams and Vision book. It's definitely a motivator. It's definitely going to inspire you. It's definitely going to give you a sense of direction, you know, far as turning your dreams into goals and how to work those goals by turning them into steps or action items. So definitely go get that, as well as the workbook, Acting on Your Dreams and Vision workbook. We have the workbook. So that workbook complements the main book, right? So there's exercises within that book. So definitely go get the Acting on Your Dreams, and also intertwined with the Acting on Your Dreams and Vision main book and the workbook, we have a workshop, man. And I've been enjoying the workshop. So we got an Acting on Your Dreams and Vision workshop, which has been taking place. We have done our first 2 sessions. We have 2 more sessions to go. I think we got a session coming up this Saturday. So y'all definitely missing out. If you didn't register for the workshop, y'all definitely are missing out. But we're definitely going to have some more workshops coming soon, the Acting on Your Dreams and Vision workshop. So, and real quick, man, I'm proud of this project here. This is my son book, The Will to Play Basketball, the Bryson Banks story. It came out the Monday. It came out this past Monday. I'm proud of the project and proud of the people here in Brookhaven area who supported the book. He had a amazing, I say, first week sales, because we only got about 50 copies on hand, the sale on hand on the website, and he damn near sold out the first day. The book.
Come on, bro. Come on.
Came out, man. So, yeah,
come on.
Yeah, so yes, sir. So, man, shout out to that, man.
Give me 10 seconds or less. 10 seconds or less.
Go ahead.
As a writer, as a parent, all of us would love our children to pick up the mantle and say, you know, you're doing that book thing. I'm seeing what you're doing. I want to have a book. I got a story to say. Hey, Kofi, your daughter has a book, correct?
Yeah.
Last year.
Called Heavy.
So besides you being the multi-author and publishing everybody else stuff, your children are now stepping into the small fraternity sorority of writers. Yes. Your children are. I really admire that, bro. I want to really say that on the mic. That's admirable, bro.
Yeah.
Facts, facts, facts.
We're gonna have to get him out there on the road with us now. We gotta get him out there on the road with us.
Come on
Yeah,
now.
we
Book fest,
gotta
book
get
fest.
that face in the place. Ain't
Right. Gotta have it. Shout out to you,
Yeah.
Kofi, too. I mean, that's dreams coming true early for a young
Yeah.
man or woman. You know what I'm saying? That speaks volumes to your, how important family is to you, and also the demonstration of what we say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going back to, want to elevate our families and elevate the people around us. And if we can, we might as well pull each other up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Especially the youth, the adolescents, the people behind us. You already setting him up on a trajectory, to have what he wants in life. You know what I'm saying? And find that happiness.
Look at the
Yes.
business side of it, right? Besides me writing and going on the road and vending to have some money to bring back, put in your pocket,
Right.
you got your own book to go to school and work, understand the hustle, understand making orders, fulfilling orders, go to the post office, mailing all stuff, receiving stuff. Like you understand the whole process of moving a product.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better school than that, man.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to you,
Yes, sir.
Kofi.
That's the whole show. We can wrap it up. All right, y'all. Y'all coming out. That's a through the prison pipeline. We got solutions.
Yeah. But shout out to everybody in the chat, man. My sister LaDosha Wright, super talented. Sister, what you say, sis? You full of African fantastic magic. I think that's her slogan, African fantastic magic. Shout out to Black Book Club. Shout out to my brother Vasa Nicolo Gullah in the building. Anthony, peace, brother Anthony, Tim, my good brother Ladarius, aka Mr. LA or Mr. Wealthy, man. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Please like and share the show again. Please like and share the show. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. All right, so now let's get into what we came here for, and that is to discuss the school to prison pipeline. And before I turn it over to Sean real quick, I wanted to we gonna break this down. Oh, let me pull this up too. Right. While he's showing books, let me show y'all this real quick. So y'all can go down into the things. We have tons, and I'll show the books and then we're gonna get into it too. But there's one. Here's one, because this is a literary podcast. Here's another one. Here's one. Here's another one. So these are things that, resources that we also pull from as well.
Wait a minute, Kofi. We ain't just shooting from the hip.
Nah, we ain't just shooting from the hip.
we ain't just on the mic. We ain't on the mic just talking.
Nah, we ain't on the mic just talking, man. Nah. So, here is the episode 9 resources right here. So there's 11 resources right here on it. Also,
anybody
if you go down
later, do a screenshot. Pause it right now. Do a screenshot.
Yes.
That's
or go down in the description. It's also down in the description, right? So it's in the description. So these are some of the episode 9 book resources that we'll be pulling from also as well as pulling from main experience, especially me, man. I got so much stuff to talk about, experience-wise, dealing with the school and these different agencies on my son's side and my daughter's side. But this episode, we are going to approach this topic in 3 ways. The first is stats, scores, and ranking. Second is teaching and students' perspective. Third is school to prison pipeline and its effect on African-American students as well as brown or Hispanic students and in our communities, right? So we're going to approach this topic in 3 various ways, right? So I'm going to turn it over to my brother, Seanathan, the Griots Polidore, and let's get this thing started, man. And if y'all got any comments and concerns, please, feel free to put them in the chat. And also, we might take some calls, man. We may take a few calls, and we might put the number out there, and y'all can call in to the show today.
Who got the call in? We got call ins, Marc?
Yeah, we got Ben had call ins. I just all to use it.
1-900 hustler. You know what I'm talking about? Remember that? 1-900 hustler.
Yeah.
No, but on the serious tip, let's talk about the reason why we're here today. So months ago, I saw some articles here in the local newspaper, the Acadian Advocate, and I was doing live in my stories on Instagram showing the article about just how much our schools are failing right now. And guess what? When you walk around the streets around here, you go to the store, and you go into work, and people just chatting about different things, you're not hearing people up in arms about it. You're not hearing people even talk about it. That's a scarier thing to me. People go around their everyday life hunky-dory, like all is well, and you see these god-awful stats. Now, on most of our jobs, if you're underperforming, you get fired, right? So year after year, this is not no new thing. Year after year, all these scores are horrible. Shouldn't there be a lot of people unemployed right now? When it comes to school, you would think. If all this is what is going on, how are y'all keeping y'all jobs? From the higher level on down to the bottom, right? So that was only a little thing I did in my stories, the 32nd, 42nd story. But Kofi and I talked, and now it became a whole entire a 2-episode podcast topic, man. So now we'll give y'all some of the stats. Here in Louisiana specific, but of course, any neighboring state, this could be the situation, right? Let me get my slide and put it up right quick.
Yes, sir.
So here are a few clips of various articles I went and put together, right? So this is a breakdown of the matrix show Louisiana ranked 47th for dropout rate. I'm going to say it again. We ranked 47th for dropout rate. Now, most of us know that Louisiana is amongst the highest in incarceration. We got Angola State Prison. A lot of folks around the world know about the Angola prison. We can't afford a 47 dropout rate. Tied West Virginia for 48th in math scores. 48th in math scores. 47 for reading. Tied with 5 states. 47 for the median ACT score. Some states have an SAT test. Here in Louisiana, we have the ACT test. We are 47 in the ACT. We tied 2 other states for 43rd in the percentage of threatened or injured high school students. I'm going to say it again. We are 43rd in threatened or injured high school students, right? We're down a little lower. Here in Louisiana, we have a test called the LEAP test, LEAP. I don't remember what the acronym LEAP stands for, but here we go. In 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, we barely improved by 1%.
Damn.
From the previous years to now, we barely improved by 1%. Now, we're going to talk about this later on in this conversation. We all know it's a thing that's said in the community. I can't say it like it's a solid thing, but the myth is if you're in 3rd and 4th grade and you are not reading on grade level, you have a higher percentage of ending up in prison in your adulthood, right? There's a decline in 3rd and 8th grade when it comes to math scores. We have a decline in 3rd and 8th grade. Those are 2 major grades right there, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What's that?
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, when you're talking about these stats and you're talking about these numbers, there are you see the timeline in order. When we first started going to school, a lot of us are very impressionable. We want to learn, right? So you talking about where you start seeing a decline in math and reading and stuff, and that's around you start getting around the 6th and 7th grade. And a lot of them around the 12 start to lose interest. And there's so many different variations, you know, the community-wise, peer pressure, and things like that. So it's vital between the ages of 0 and 9 is to get them. And that's where that thing comes in with a myth where by the time they get to the 4th grade, now we're talking about from 0 to 9, and then from 9 to 13, and then 13 to 18. So the most important and vital part of that piece at that time is from 0 to 9 to get them in, because the kids are very interested in their learning. So after 9, and you see them going from elementary into the junior high, 7th grade and on up, you started to see the decline in a lot of their schoolwork. Math started to go down, reading and all these other things started to go down. So I just want to throw that out there, that it is very important that the teachers, you know, work with them from 0 to 9. So and figure out ways on how to keep them engaged when they get into junior high and high school, where they, you know, their grades don't decline. But there's other variations that we want to talk about too, on why, even if that happened, other things happen in between there. You know, which we'll talk about expulsion and suspension in a minute. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so we talk about junior high. You just said the word junior high, right? Look at this stat on the 2024. Some of these stats from last year, right? 8th grade, that's junior high. 8th grade, scores decline in every subject. I didn't say a subject. Scores decline in every subject. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. Overall, the scores show that Louisiana students are still behind pre-COVID levels in math and science. So a lot of folks in these conversations, they say, well, you know, COVID came and online school, virtual school, that's the main thing people say for a rebuttal. This said that schools are behind pre-COVID scores still, right? We ranked third, 7.36 high school dropout. Let's talk about dropout rates a little while ago, right? Of course, we are 47th and 48th in education almost every year since I was in school 20-something years ago. It's a common thing said Louisiana toward the bottom of education. Every year we still are toward 48, 49, right? So that's some of the stats and everything I have for this episode, man, to bring this topic up. But my mom is a 20-plus year educator. She retired this past year. My grandmother was like 38, 39 years, 8th grade English, right? So a lot of my family background is education. So I talked to mom on the phone and said, Mom, we got a school to prison pipeline episode tomorrow. Now you're on the outside looking in. You've been through the battlefield, now you're out the game looking back. What do you say as far as like solutions go, right? And this is a multi-pronged problem. There is no one solution. It's a multi-pronged solution thing, right? But she harped on that parental piece, man, that home piece. She harped on, because today's economy is so bad, most times, even in a two-parent household, which is not a lot of those, even in the best case scenario, both of those parents got to work so hard. So even with a two-parent household, you don't have many times where the old school parents sit there at the table with you, like, I'm going to pull your homework out. We're going to go over it together. And we're going to read it together. And let's ask you some quizzing questions and all that. There's not much of that going on anymore. To a point where the school pretty much almost stops sending homework. I had 3 kids, and both of my boys are grown and gone, and my daughter about to graduate. I can count the times I've seen them have to pull out homework. And when you ask them, where your homework at? I ain't seen no homework. Oh, we did this in the 3rd period. Oh, we did this on this and that. Because the school realized so many parents complaining to him, like, bro, y'all send all this homework home. We up till almost midnight doing this stuff. So the school pretty much started like not giving homework. It's barely and rally, man. So I was over here one time doing a show. Sitting across the way, I saw a parent with her son. And they going line for line, going through like I saw back in the 80s. I haven't seen that in a long time. Like that involvement, the hands-on, the getting in there in the trenches. Because guess what? Some of these parents' kids get to the 11th grade and then they realize, well, so-and-so can't read that good. How you get that far in education year by year and you didn't know he couldn't read? Like day-to-day around the house. You didn't realize that, wait a minute, he can't read. And here we are, 16, 17 years old. And you just
you have to be sitting to hear if a kid can read or not. You have to say, read out loud. It's got to be books in the house. You know, like environment is so important. I can't wait to get into this conversation because it's not an easy one to have because we do have to reflect. You know, and people don't like to reflect and be like, man, I could be doing this in my house, or these are the things I'm doing but they're not working. Conversations around this, community conversations, friend group conversations should go on around the school to prison pipeline because, you know, we as adults are like this much away from making a mistake or something like that, or a warrant or a ticket or something leading us in prison. But the way they lay it out so intricately with the students and, you know, all these factors play into whether a kid is even interested in school. You know what I'm saying? The representation of what it's like to be an adult. I want to say something too, Sean, because you mentioned homework. DISD, they cannot give. In Dallas, they cannot give homework. And they use the excuse of, well, no, they don't give homework.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because of the poverty thing. internet, the availability of internet, and all these resources. But at the same time, I'm like, that's a way for the school to have conversations, and we parents don't know what's going on. You're not sending nothing home. I can't check anything. You're not sending any reading assignments. I can't make sure that they're doing something because you're not sending assignments at home. And then what are they to do? Sitting around on their tablet, on their phone from 3 to 8.
You know what's crazy too? So I know every school district different. But like when my kids go to school, for an example, we get an alert on our phone if my daughter untie her shoes right quick. They call them out all day long, right? In certain places I know personally, like in Milwaukee, other places in the Midwest, my homegirl said her niece had missed almost 150 days of school and they didn't even know about it.
It's not funny, but
look, the amount of absent students at school is a big pandemic within itself. Like ever since the pandemic, you have thousands of kids that have not been back to school.
Wow.
You can't account for it. I mean, like 30 to 50,000 something students. I know live 5,000, 3,000. You start looking into them kind of articles about the amount of absent people and stuff like that. But it's not getting talked about. It's not getting reported heavily. So once again, for those that don't know this, I don't just talk on the podcast. My background is in psychology, right? So with my client, if they were absent from school all the time, we had to go to truancy court. So me, my client, and the parent, we're in the actual courtroom with the people at court, talking about why little Johnny missed the bus so much. You gotta be able to account for that as a parent. You gotta be able to explain as a parent to the judge why this is going on in your household. Yeah. So if that many kids are just gone from school, where was that?
Yeah. They here they make sure
multi things to cover, man.
Yeah, on and here they give, once they get their report cards and they progress reports, they have the many days that if the parents don't know, once the parents get the report card and progress report, it has the days on there, have this and unexcused days and the excused days on there. So if your child been out of school 15, 20 days, it's gonna have its unexcused if you know on there if it's been excused. So it have that, but it's so many different variations, and we're gonna get into that why a lot of these kids, thousands of kids, are dropping out of school or not returning to school because there's so many variations when it comes to that.
All right, one of the last things you can move on, right? It's a certain word, I can't remember what the word was called. It's a pocket of people between 18 and 24 years old. They're not in college, they're not in the military, and they're not working. Louisiana ranked like the highest in whatever that word is called. 18 to 24. Not in college, not working. That means you got a bunch of grown-ups just living on somebody.
Talk about it.
Whether that be a parent, a girlfriend, a homie, a cousin, whatever, they just existed. But they ain't even trying. So this book, At My Dreams and Visions, when I heard that stat, like, this is a large population of people that's not acting on whatever their dream is, whatever their vision is, whatever they go. They just pretty much gave up. They're in that pocket where they just gave up. You know what? I'm going to just unplug from the matrix. I'm not trying to go in the workforce. I'm not trying to go deal with school no more. Like, my hands is up. And that got to be talked about, man.
It does. It does. Kofi, I want to hear what you have next.
Oh, you want me to go in and then? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then we'll get to the teacher and student perspective. So let's talk about what is the school to prison pipeline. The school to prison pipeline is a disturbing trend that funnels students, particularly those from marginalized communities, out of the public schools and into the juvenile and criminal justice system. This pipeline is perpetuated by various policies and practices such as zero tolerance and discipline, the presence of policing in school, the criminalization of minor infractions. African American students are disproportionately affected, facing harsh disciplinaries actions and higher rates of suspension and exposures compared to their white peers. The These students are often misdiagnosed with behavior disorders and learning disabilities simply because they exhibit high energy and restless. This misdiagnosis can lead to inappropriate placement in social and special education programs where schools receive additional funding for each student classified as having special needs. Furthermore, the drug prescription to manage these misdiagnosis conditions can be endanger and addictive as crack cocaine, leading to a long-term health and dispensary, contributing to broader society inequities and perpetuating cycles of poverty and incarceration within the African American community, right? So I got, and that's a lot now because there's a lot of different variations in those different things. A lot of those I had to deal with personally that I learned down the line dealing with my son's school, but we're going to get into that. So the key points of affecting African-American students' communities. So we're going to talk about disproportionate disciplines, increase in dropout rates, criminalizations of behavior, misdiagnosis of over-medication, deadly medication, financial incentives for special ed placement, psychological impact, community impact, educational equality, long-term consequence. I want to go back real quick to Two Peas in the Pod. She said something. Let me see if I can find the comment again. She said that. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. I was like, shout out to the home team. We love Two Peas in the Pod. Those sisters dope podcast. Go ahead.
So she said schools were built to defranchise Black children as extension of the Jim Crow. I agree with that, but it also goes further back because I'm going to propose a question later on because some of these things when we're in school, when we're looking at it, we're in school, we're sending our kids to school by a heavy populated of people who ancestors kidnapped, raped, killed, murdered, destroyed, right? Our people, right? So now we're giving them the opportunity to teach us. So there's a whole lot of things that goes on with that. But I'm gonna say the first institution, and I'm gonna explain that later on. The first, we don't get where we got a variation of 1.3 Black males in the school system, and you got about 6% of Black women in the school system, right? It is oversaturated by white European women, right? Or European women, right? So when we're dealing with that, there's so many different things that entangle with that. So a lot of that stuff comes from our training. So in school, we are being trained, right? So if you read about on the plantation, back in the days on the plantation, there are letters that has been out from one slave owner to the next slave owner, telling each other how to teach or how to train another slave to get more productivity, right? So they can stay economically in power, how to encourage and motivate the slave on the plantation for more productivity. So by me looking at that thing and examining that, the same thing has happened when it comes to the school system. The school system, when she's saying being disfranchised and certain things like that, it goes back to the plantation. But then it also goes to things like, let's get into it because I want to talk about this thing where our youth became super predators. They became thugs. You know, they became crack babies. These was some of the slurs that media and some of your presidents and presidents' wives were using. A lot of this rhetoric was using. And even when we talk about the war on crime, and the nation at risk, these things, when we talk about the nation at risk, these is when you start to see the school to prison pipeline, because now you start to see the schools are now starting to work with the prison system, right? So now what they have, the school, and what they have done is they have outsourced the police, the disciplinary, the kids in the school. So now you starting to see inside the school, you starting to see armed police inside the school. So We're not talking about the schools now look like the prison. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about our kids going through metal detectors. We're not talking about our kids being searched. We're not talking about our kids seeing armed policemen in the building. We're not seeing our kids seeing surveillance cameras and stuff. You know, even some schools have big bar fences up that look like a prison, right? And there's so many examples of schools I have seen like this, right? So we're not talking about now the schools are starting to look like the prison system, and even the schools are now outsourcing the police to discipline the kids, right? And now you see the intertwine of the justice system, of the juvenile criminal system, where now students and even people in administrative office in the schools are now making recommendations to the juvenile court centers, right? So all this is, so it's so many different factors. So let's talk about the disproportionate discipline. African-American students are facing higher rates of suspension and exposure, often the minor infractions, which disrupt 3 times more likely to suspend and expel them their white peers. Behavior where African-American students perceive as more disrupted or aggressive. This bias leads to frequent interruptions of their academic and become disengaged from school. Harsh disciplinary policies contribute to higher dropout rates among African-American students, limiting their future opportunities. When students are frequently suspended or expelled, they are more likely to disengage from the education process. The lack of support and increase of alienated can push students toward dropping out of school, significantly reducing the chances of obtaining stable employment, pursuing higher education, and achieving economic stability, perpetuating a cycle of poverty. So this goes back into what Sean was just talking about people not returning to school and kids are dropping out of school, right? So these things, you know, where we are being targeted, because when you like I said, when you see the war on crime start to take place and the nation at risk, where now the president, Ronald Reagan, is now saying that we have to discipline the school, because he was talking about the rates, the stats, you know what I'm saying, and the things that were going on, which was synonymous with drugs, right? So they start talking about the poverty area and the at-risk students, right, that's involved into the public schools, into the school system. So now you start to see this rhetoric of super thugs and crack babies and so forth. So now it's perpetuating propaganda, or perpetuating where the teachers, which is overly predominant European white women, are starting to be scared, or starting to think that, okay, we're a lost causes, we are hopes, right? Okay, yes. And so you start to see these things. So a lot of these variations play. So now a person for crying. There was a student, I think it was in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, a black African-American boy was placed in handcuffs and arrested for crying too hard, right? So there was other incidents where black African-American girls was disciplined by the police, or escorted, or expelled or suspended for wearing an afro or braids, and just for being themselves, right? So there's so many different variations. So even kids, you know, we play the Dirty Dozens, right? So your mama fell on your mama this, your mama. So, you know, it's the Dirty Dozen, you know what I'm saying? So people are getting suspended for playing the Dirty Dozens, or joking, or Joan, what we call it joning down here. Joning, you know what I'm saying? Joning on each other, right? So these outlandish disciplinary acts or policy when it comes to African-American boys and African-American women, where they're being suspended long-term, or they're being exposed from school, right? So, and even with their being exposed or being suspended, let's say you come back and get suspended again. You get suspended for 20 days. You come back and get suspended. It's kind of hard for you to kind of catch up, right? So eventually it's going to discourage a person where, hey, I'm just going to drop out. Forget this. I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to drop out of school. or you're going to try and then you still can't keep up and then you still don't graduate. So a lot of these kids ended up turning into a life of crime. But that's just some variations, right? Criminalization of behavior. You know what I'm saying? They have criminalize our children, right? You know, again, going back to the rhetoric of our kids being super predators. You know what I'm saying? Our kids being thugs. And go ahead, Sean.
Real quick interjection, right? The book called Pushout. The book is called Pushout, about how our black girls are suspended and expelled way more than any other population in the school. Our black girls are just suspended, right? But during the pandemic, I did a community speaking thing about this term called adultification, right? Adultification. Our kids are not allowed to be kids and make little kid mistakes. You talking about the kids is playing and stuff.
Yeah.
Our kids are treated like you an adult. You should know better.
Yep.
So a little kid like Tamir Rice is just playing, gets shot by the cops, or other kids, injustice happens, right? But other kind of kids at that age, oh, he's just 12 years old. Oh, he's just 9 years old. He's just 15 years old. But whenever our kids are 12-year-old, they talk about I was so scared and he was so menacing and he was just so like they're 6 foot tall and 230 pounds. You're just so scared. They can't be a 9-year-old kid just playing around in the street. So I just want to interject that right quick.
Yeah, that's correct, man. They are show being looked at as adults and treated as adults, and just, you know, we see it all over the social media. You know, police dragging young little girls out of a student chair. You know, boys being slammed down.
That big old huge dude took a little bitty girl and just like
boom, slammed it down.
Girl, man. Like, bro,
yes. No value for our
70-pound little girl, man.
Yes.
And it's frustrating too, Kofi. Real quick, before you tap back into it, it's frustrating too because it's like sometimes people don't want to look inside their own household and figure out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And like Sean said earlier, you don't know your kid not reading. You don't know that your kid's not turning in homework. You know, there's small things that can be done to get a kid out of that position. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times it's like parents be so busy. You know, I'm not throwing any parent under the bus. I don't have kids, so no, I'm not coming for no parent. But like, you know, when you have 2 working parents, you know, even having a parent at home all the time is helpful. A lot of times these kids they have to be responsible, so they are treated like adults, even in the house, you know, to a certain extent. So I just want to yeah, I mean, responsibility is one thing, and that's important. But sometimes they have to be responsible for siblings, for real. Like, make sure they get to the bus stop. Make sure. So keep those things in mind.
That's in that Pushout book.
Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna have to check that. But that's real.
Our black girls do that at an early age. You're like another mother, basically.
There you go. And
then you gotta go cook for your little brother and make sure this and that. When I get home from work, I want to have all this and that done. Like, it's a freaking job.
Yep, it is. Yep, most definitely. Misdiagnosis and over medication, right? This really hit home for me. My son, and I go into that. My son was one early. We had people who came to our house. I had a meeting with the principal, and assistant principal and his teacher, about putting him on Ritalin, and it was another medication.
Adderall, I can list them off. Adderall, Vyvanse. I mean, where you want to start? They got stimulant for everybody.
Yeah, it might have been Adderall, but I know Ritalin was one of them, right? My son was like super hyper, right? He was super hyper. So they said he had a behavior problem because he couldn't stay still in class, or he was disrupting the class. And so they wanted to put him on medicine, but not only put him on medicine, they wanted to put him in special ed because of that, right? And we're going to talk about the special ed and the money that they receive, because that's also big business by putting people in special ed also. And a lot of those people are in special ed also leaves to prison as well, because they can't even read on the third grade grade level. You know what I'm saying? They can't come. Well, we're going to get into all of that, man. But misdiagnosis and over medication. high energy behavior are frequently misdiagnosed a behavior disorder, leading to unnecessary and potential harmful medication. African American students, especially boys, are often mislabeled as having attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and majority of those people who teaches that are white European women. ADHD or behavior issues when they dispel high energy levels. These misdiagnoses can result in the prescription of powerful medication that alters their behavior and can have serious side effects. The over-medication of these students not only affect their physical health, but also stigmatize them and impact their academic performance. So even with them, but they can't do it unless you have permission. That is the reason why they talk to my son and my son's mother.
No.
Go ahead, Sean.
Real quick, so back to my psychology background, right? So again, being the counselor, I'm going to these IEP meetings with the parent and the teacher and the principal and the school board, deciding what to do with this kid as far as giving him accommodations in class or as far as doing this and that. So many times, I got to be an advocate for that parent because the jargon that they're using and the words that they're talking about in that meeting, the parent is oblivious to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different universe. And they reading off this stuff and getting the parent to just sign on something. She don't know what she's signing. She don't know what she's agreeing to. And a lot of times, even whenever a parent does agree to accommodation, guess what? Months later go by, the teacher not giving extra time on the test. The teacher not giving the kid additional tests or different kind of tests or whatever we agreed upon in this big old meeting is not even being done. And the mother, once again, we got to go to work, is not even able to follow up on, is this even happening?
Yep.
So I got to tell the parent, like, whoa. What they're saying is, I can be a translator, this, and that. And the parent be like, no, I don't like that. We're not doing that.
Yep.
But what if you don't have no advocate, is my point.
There you go.
What if you don't have a person like myself there to do that? And most times it's not the case.
Yep.
I call it being a bobblehead. Most times you're doing this.
Yep.
The whole table doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go like this. All right, mom, sign here, date this. And they're like,
But
here's the thing. As a pharmacist, it is, my homeboy Ladarius is in the chat talking about these are a step away from crack. Yes, these stimulants are class 2. Now, there are some medications for ADHD that are not stimulant based. But again, that comes to with education, that comes with advocacy, that comes with asking your, other healthcare providers, ask your pharmacists or people who look like you about a certain thing before you agree to it or a certain drug. Or when you pick up that prescription, ask questions. Because again, sometimes, and we're going to talk about this later, behavior is an issue because at the end of the day, you need to be able to perform in class. The way the school system is set up, you do have to sit. You do have to pay attention. You do have to listen. Like these are things that get you satisfactory moving forward, or it could hold you back. So it's kind of like a fine line because you do want your kids to perform. I would hate for a kid who has maybe bipolar or some other type of mental health or they're have some type of defiant for real behavior disorder to not excel in school just because they can't control their behavior or their outbursts or their anger or whatever. What
you find is these teachers, they just want your child. He said in the chat earlier, somebody said in the chat, they want the child to be sitting there zombie out. Like if he just zoinked out, at least he's not disrupting the class. And if you ever see a child like that, I don't know if anybody on the chat ever witnessed a child like that. I've seen a kid like that before just be like, in a stupor. Like, I would rather you cutting up than being like that.
Well, yeah, because you ain't learning.
Like that. You just
how is he learning?
Exactly. So he learning what like that?
Yeah, nothing. Nothing.
Quiet.
He don't know what he or she barely know where he at. Don't just zone out.
If you see an OG on the block looking like this, what's going on, Kofi? You'll be like, damn. But we will accept a little kid being in the class. Raise your hand, Kofi.
But to me, and I'm not advocating. Let me speak on this because I'm not an advocate of children being on medications like that. But in hindsight, I have some family members who are, who could have used some. I look at their life now and I'm like, dang, maybe if there had been some type of medication, maybe their life wouldn't have turned, they would have been able to excel or focus, because the point of the stimulant is not to have the stupor. The point is to have the kid be able to focus, because we do have an issue with comprehension, reading comprehension. Kids don't know what they read like that. There are some skills that the kids need to get in the class. Sometimes they need to be able to, get out of the rambunctiousness in order to learn. But again, we'll talk about that later as far as like our lessons engaging. Our teachers, and are they just lecturing? Kids, certain level kids cannot tolerate a lecture. If you want to lecture, you need to teach a higher grade level. So some of the kids, aren't as engaged because the teachers aren't really putting in fun and, engaging, active, experiential type lessons together. You know what I'm saying? Based on how they have to teach these TEKs, and all this structure of, what is it? Curriculum. That's a whole nother piece. Some people teach real dry and some people teach real engaging. It makes a huge difference in what the kid learns.
Yeah, it definitely does. But now, even with the teachers who are caring, right, and want to be engaging, they can't anymore. When they did this no student left behind, and then they started these standardized tests. Now the entire year is about you taking practice tests to take the test. And if we don't get in, then these stats, we're going to be at the bottom. And then we're not going to get the funding that we need, man. It's so many different variations.
It's so many levels. And you have to understand it all to really get the scope of what's happening in the education system.
So Dr. Wade know this. When I'm on other radio shows discussing politics and stuff like that, some things that said in the headline and news could be dispelled with a simple civics class, like 5th grade civics, 6th grade civics. But guess what, Kofi? A lot of those schools, like you just said, a lot of those schools have removed those classes. It's focus on the test, focus on the test.
Right.
So now you're an adult trying to make an adult informed decision about politics. You don't understand simple civics, understand the House and the Senate and Congress and who does what, the city councilman and the alderman, what person does this and that.
Facts.
You're a grown person who understand that. We learned that in like 9th grade. So I say all the time, being funny on the radio, some of the things can be fixed with a simple civics class, a simple geography class about certain things in world politics. A simple geography class can fix a lot of this stuff.
True.
But so many things are bypassed now for the sake of the test. Test. We need the test scores to get school money, to be an A-rated school, B-rated school.
Everything is about metrics.
Everything is about the metrics. Right.
That's all it boils down to. And it's so funny because they say no child left behind, but these children aren't treated like people. They're numbers. Again, school to prison pipeline. When you're in prison, you're a number.
Dr. Wade, you said no child left behind, right? I said earlier in the podcast about the 17-year-old kid that can't read. How we get the junior year, you can't read.
Yeah.
Because every school year, pass them along. Pass
them along. Yes. Yeah.
Pass them along. I'll be quiet on this one, right? My best friend Lex, whenever she taught chemistry in high school, like 10th grade chemistry, when the year started, she gave them like a little pre-test to see where they were. Like nobody on classes on level. I got to spend so much of the early part of the year just getting y'all where y'all supposed to be at.
True.
To start the 10th grade chemistry class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got lesson plans. And your higher up said, come on now, at this point in the semester, you're supposed to be over here. At this point in the year, you should be over here. So you as Kofi said, you never catch up. Yeah. You never catch up. You never catch up.
It depends on the environment. You know what I'm saying? Some of these STEM schools are good for one-on-one tutoring, that type of thing, because they allow teachers to come in who may not have a teaching degree. That may be a topic we can discuss later. But there are advantages. People don't like that. Well, they're not qualified. And we talk about this all the time. We disqualify ourselves, based on these systems. The system disqualifies us. Okay, you don't have your teaching degree. And even the community, well, I don't want nobody without a teaching degree teaching my kid. But you don't know what other experiences that person can bring and teach your kid. And wrap it all the way up, because it's just, teachers, what they learn is how to teach. They don't really learn how to involve life experiences and involve outside community resources. Everything is within those walls. So you're limited. Teachers limit themselves based on just what they've learned. That standard education. This is how you teach. Go get your degree. Boop, you got your degree, now teach.
Mm-hmm. And Sean mentioned autodidact. And, you know, if you don't know what an autodidact is, you know, go look up what an autodidact is. But a lot of us on this panel are autodidacts. Like, I went to school. I went to school for secondary education. I took some Africana studies in class, but my background is in secondary education. Now I wish I would have took primary education. That's why I should have been really focusing on the kids in elementary school. That should have been my focus, instead of focus on junior high and high school. You know, that was my mistake. I didn't know better then. But damn, I lost my train of thought what I was gonna say. God, I forgot. I lost my train of thought of what I was gonna say. But let's go. It may come back to me. But real quick, he's saying the backside of the IP, how much money is bringing to the schools? Yes, because I'm gonna give you an example. I had an agent. I had experienced 2 agents. I experienced an agent when I was in the counselor office, giving these people the business. You giving these people the business about my son. Like these people, yeah, I gave these people so much business. They addressed me as Mr. Nelson. When I came, Mr. Heads, they gave me the utmost respect when I came in. Oh, here come this educated Negro. How you doing, Mr. Nelson? So I'm in the counselor office. This guy, agent comes in. Our agent comes in, and in his briefcase, he has medicine inside the briefcase. This is stuff that he's in there with the counselor with. So the medicine is also big business when it comes to the school. Now I had another lady come to my house, European lady come to my house. She's an agent. She's an agent that works or tied into the school. And she's trying to now convince us again that my son need to be taking this type of medicine. Let me tell you. So when I started breaking down what's in the medicine and giving her stats on, we actually did have a few kids who actually died from taking this medicine. Because like what's the name said a while ago, some of these medicines are steps away from crack cocaine, and some of them just as strong as crack cocaine. Right. So these agents, so it's a big business. You hear what I said? Agents coming into the school selling medicine to the school. Right. So it's big business, y'all. It's big business. So let's talk about the because some of these slides I don't really have to keep. Let's talk about financing incentives for special ed placement, right? And again, these things are special ed inside of the school, which is a variation of leading to the school prison pipeline, right? Can't comprehend, reading level on a 3rd grade reading level. Some of them thinking that they have some type of mental disorder and don't even have some, so they think they're stupid, you know, and they're not trying to apply themselves. So a lot of them drop out of school. Some of them finish school, but you know, when it's through, a lot of them lead to a life of crime, right? So the school received double the funding. The school received double the funding for students placed in special education, creating a preserved incentive to overdiagnose and misclassify students. The additional funding provides the school for each student classified as having a special needs can lead to inappropriate placements of African-American students in specialized education programs. The misclassification can stigmatize students, segregate them from their peers, and limit their access to rigorous curriculums, further hindering their academic process and their future opportunity. Here in Brookhaven, go ahead.
I got a question. The chat might know I've never had an answer to this question. If a child is placed in special education, let's say 3rd grade, 4th grade, right? I have never seen a child go back on the general track.
No.
Like if you put in special ed at some point in your educational track, it's like forever. Like you done. Yes, you're not going to graduate with your class like everybody. You're going to be in special courses the rest of your track. Do that thing. So if you're a parent and they put your child in these classes 3rd, 4th, 5th grade,
It's a wrap.
It's about to be a wrap.
Yeah, it's about to be a
I'm just
wrap.
asking.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody
Yes.
know more than me. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I know personally, unless it's done changed. Me in school, I can name out 5 people right now I went to school with, graduated with me. Some of them didn't graduate, was in special ed around the 3rd and 4th grade, and they was in special ed all the way up in high school, my 12th grade year of school. They never got, they was always segregated. They went to break. After we come off the playground, they went.
Different lunch break, different everything.
Like, different lunch break, everything was different. They was separate. They was like they was in isolation, like they was in lockdown, right? You know, and I never seen them return back to population. They never return back, you know, and they might do that now.
We use the jail terms right now. Isolation, population.
Yes.
Jail vernacular right now.
Yes, because the schools, again, looks like the prison. You got armed police, you got metal detectors, you got surveillance cameras in the building. You even have some police dogs in the thing. They got fence bars. It becomes a prison.
I got a question for y'all. I'm not being, this is a serious topic, so I'm not trying to be funny. But a lot of these mass shootings that happen across the nation, are they normally in the hood schools? Like our schools? It's not normally in our schools.
No. But
most of these mass shootings happening at these other people kind of schools.
Yes.
Most of the police look like us.
Yeah,
but this heavily policed at our schools.
Yes. 50. If the schools, this is how it is. If the schools is over 50%, there are gonna be armed police guards. There are gonna be surveillance cameras, and the school is gonna outsource the police to discipline your children. If there is 50%, and going back to special ed, it is big business for the school. It's $6,659 that they pay per student here in Brookhaven, Mississippi. So if your kid is now put in special ed, that school is getting $1,200 or $1,300 now for that student. So it becomes big business. But when you do those things and misdiagnose these kids for you saying that their behavior problems because you know they're hyper, they're over energetic, they can't sit down, or even you know them being the class clowns. We know some of us like to clown and get attention just for trying to get attention. Now you want to place me into or isolate me into special ed, and knowing that I can't escape this, and this might set me up, my future up for failure, which might lead me down a life of crime or and in prison. Right.
But so here's the thing. You have to perform.
Yes.
If you're in a classroom, you have to perform. This is not the time for you to cut up and kiki and coo. And this is a learning environment, and we have to be able to communicate that. And again, I'm speaking because I don't have children, so I'm limited. But we have to be clear with why you're going to school. You're here to learn. This is how it's set up. We have to educate our kids in order to be successful, because the conversation has to turn to how do we get out of these situations? How do we better prepare our students? Because yes, if we only rely on the system in the school system to educate our kids, yes, they're going to be undereducated. No, they're not going to know about themselves. So when they're in these third grade classes or second, fourth, whatever, and they are hyperactive, you're setting yourself up. If you want to say, okay, well, he's hyperactive and he doesn't know how to control himself. One of my people in the chat was like, well, you know, they want to perpetuate this. We can't control ourselves without white people coming in, but can we? And that's what I'm looking forward to talking about next, because I'm like, what do these classrooms look like? Let's talk about that. What is going on in these classrooms in real life?
Let's talk about it. I'm gonna digress from these things because we can come back because we're gonna do another part to this, so we can come back and veer in, because I want to talk about educational equality, community impact, you know, some of the things that we can do to try to change some of these things. So go ahead, my sister, go ahead with it.
Yeah, because the thing is, I do want to shout out the amazing teachers that are out there. Shout out mainly to my homeboy, Matt, my bestie. He is out there changing the game in the classroom, these third grade classrooms that he has to handle with at the school in Dallas. So shout out to him. He's doing amazing things. He got these third graders learning about longitude and latitude and showing them how it correlates to looking at a graph in math. So shout out to the people that are doing really amazing things in these classrooms and bringing these skills into the classroom where our kids can thrive, because there are some kids who are really good with their teachers. They're thriving. All that is good. We want that. We want our kids to come home and say, oh, I love this teacher because I learned this. We don't want to have to beg what you learned in school today. But again, let's talk about what's going on in these classrooms from the teacher's perspective. I have seen lots of teachers complain. I got to break up fights. The kids talking back. They popping off at me like I'm their mama. These are things that are actually happening in the classroom. So there are kids that are going to class showing out. They're not there to learn, they're fighting. And I'm not blaming the kid, but I'm saying, if your kid has a behavioral issue at home, you can't tell them nothing. Then you send them to school, the teacher can't tell them nothing. And the teacher is not responsible just for your kid. The teacher is responsible for 25, sometimes 30 kids. And that comes with, so not only is the teacher having to teach and get instruction across, they also have to manage classroom management skills. That's a lot. When you have 25 different personalities, 25 different behavioral responses, and that is a lot. And I'm not excusing anything. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, because we have to start being real with each other about what's going on with these classrooms from the teacher's perspective. Behavior, that's a constant thing. And then what's going on from the student's perspective? Is it fun? Is it engaging? Am I bored? Am I thinking about something else? Are they teaching me life skills as along with the curriculum? Are they making it seem like I can attain certain things? You know what I'm saying? These are things that we have to have conversations with our class and with our kids, just as much as we can have the conversation about be careful with police. We need to equip our kids. When you go to this school, see, the parents be different these days. Our parents was like, don't you go in there showing out. We were scared. We did not want the school calling in our household.
I know I didn't, because my grandma come and I
can. The parents coming to the school.
Yes. Fifth grade.
Yeah.
My fifth grade year. Miss Coleman, I'll never forget it. It's ingrained. My fifth grade teacher, Miss Coleman, called my grandmother. I begged that woman to not call my grandma. They got
me too, fifth grade. That's crazy. Fifth grade. Man,
behind in the front, they got you got the classroom. Behind you had the lockers. My grandmother came in there, took me while they was having class. We went in the lockers in the classroom in the back and beat me in front of everybody. Beat me, and everybody heard me hollering back there. They ain't see it because we were back there in the lockers, but they heard it. The rest of the year, who was a class clown? Boy, get away from me. You trying to tell a joke? Get away from me. I don't even know what a joke is no more. I was scared to death.
There's a time and a place. Like, we're not trying to change the kid. If you're a naturally funny person, we want to cultivate those gifts and skills. But at the same time, when you're in school, we need you have to play the game. If you want to explain it to them like that, explain it to them like that. You need information in order to be successful in the world. We're not saying you got to go to college, whatever. You need information, but that classroom etiquette is something. Thank you, Winifred. And shout out to Mr. LA. He brought up a great point. He said, what about the other side of the spectrum of gifted kids? They're isolated as well. I know a lot of straight A students that amounted to nothing. And that's what we're about to get into, because there's so much going on. And even the gifted kids, can they pay attention in the class when there's all this other movement and stuff going on? But why are
gifted children, or even I want to say qualify for gifted class less on that side of the spectrum? Our brilliant ones are qualified for gifted class less. Keep it going.
Because again, that gatekeeping, we can't let them all be gifted, the one or the two, and then we integrate that heavily, because there's going to be more white people, more white kids than black kids. So that's a whole nother thing. But I want to talk about, why are we experiencing negative, harsh, toxic behavior from students? That's the reality. That's what's going on. Y'all see them videos on Instagram and TikTok, these kids throwing stuff. Where was that one video recently? There was a kid, I think he may have had some type of disability, I'm not sure, but he put the lady eye out. Sean, did you see that? There's a lot going on in these classrooms and in these schools that we're not talking about behavior-wise. And not only behavior, they're not being productive. What are y'all doing? You know, and even if they're not sending homework home, okay, that don't mean as a parent you can't, you know, find something on the internet for them to look up and complete so you can know what's going on in these classrooms. But we have to look at literature, history, and the elders to see the true landscape, what the landscape of society when it comes to our legacy. And we got to start seeing how we can maneuver out of the prison to school pipeline where we don't have any Black and brown students being locked up. You know what I'm saying? We got to start moving towards that arm, because to me, if we remove ourselves from even being in that conversation by being able to augment the behavior in whatever way, or be able to help our kids focus in class, then who they gonna send to prison? You know, like, we can really change the narrative there. And the first book that I want to relate to, I have some books that I want to call out right here. The first one I want to relate to, shout out to Dr. Naeem Akbar, if y'all can see this. African psychologists. A lot of these white people or these integrated schools, the people that they're learning psychology from and behavior and human behavior is white theorists, white psychologists. And there's, I mean, we can talk race all day long, but they don't understand the African psychology. They're not taking the perspective of know thyself when it comes to being a child or being a human being or being a melanated being. So I wanted to channel Dr. Naeem Akbar. This book is called Breaking the Chains of Psychological State.
You got to say, in the world of psychology, when you break down the biography of a lot of these founding psychologists, they were pretty jacked up their damn self. You break down Freud and Carl Jung and all these people that they say are the founding fathers of psychology, look at who they were. Facts. And they're talking about what our kids are and what our kids are not.
But see, that's why they feel so comfortable at their diagnoses, because they're also looking at their leaders or the people that they think are the father of psychology, and they're saying, okay, if a kid is behaving like this, then that must mean they have this condition. That must mean they're ADHD. Like, if there's all these rules and guidelines and things like that that verify and give these people permission to put your kid on a drug or say that they need a certain diagnosis because of their theory of psychology and human behavior. But I want to tap in here because I think adults need to break the chains of psychological slavery. We don't see that. We perpetuate the same bullcrap from what we learn to our kids, and we're setting them up for failure because we don't know thyself. We don't know how important our life is and our kids' life to the whole workings of the universe. You know what I'm saying? We tap out because we don't tap into the African psychology, and we don't really find who we are as Afrocentric people. We're just like, okay, well, my kid needs to go to college so they can get an education and be somebody's worker. We really don't give them full value because we don't know our full value. So I wanted to tap in here because, hold on. Dr. Naeem Akbar, he's an African psychologist, a PhD. His books include Know Thyself. I know y'all mentioned that in the chat. Know Thyself, Light from Ancient Africa. Light from Ancient Africa is one of my favorites. But we have to be more centric, you know what I'm saying, as adults, so that we can know the proper things that we need to pass along to our kids and to keep our legacy alive. He also wrote a book called The Community of Self. Do you have that one, Kofi? And so he said, one of the things that he said was, those who deny the lessons of the past are doomed to repeat them. So again, we're not looking at the past because we're not reading necessarily as adults to figure out how we're being manipulated. We talk about integration a little bit. We talk about what it was like to be in a classroom before integration. That a hit. So not Dr. Naeem Akbar, if y'all can take screenshots or tap into his work, it's really good because we have to start to look at some of the root causes of things instead of just throwing things at the symptoms. You know what I'm saying? And so let me read this little piece from this book real quick. Hold on. Because we got to tap in. Okay. Those who fail to recognize that the past, speaking of slavery, right, is a shaper of the present, and the hand of yesterday continues to write on the slate of today, leave themselves vulnerable to not realizing the impact of influences which do serve to shape our lives. So it goes back to the point that we're leaving our kids vulnerable to this this school to prison pipeline, because we're not educated on ourselves and our greatness and our highness and all of our African principles, which make us great. We're not educated. And so, again, slavery is repeating itself through the school to prison pipeline. As y'all mentioned, there's all these things that qualify our kids to go into this system of behavior, ADHD. They're not going to do well in school. They're not going to perform. They're not going to graduate. They qualify our kids based off of things like behavior. But we have to tap into that centricness of ourselves, okay? So this is the idea that human beings are a very special form of creation. We are the only life form in nature who operate based on our self-consciousness. So we're not tapped into our consciousness, and that limits our thinking on what we can do. It limits our thinking on what our kids can do, what they create, and who they can even be. Let me tap in here. Again, I'm just going to read another excerpt from Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery, because this is what's perpetuating the school to prison pipeline. As human beings, our limitations rest only in our ignorance. We are ignorant of who we are and what we can do. We have the need to gain conscious awareness, and only in consciousness is our true human capacity open to us. So again, talking about the capacity of ourselves and our children, and getting them out of the mindset that, they're just another Black kid in school, and just helping them see that their presence in the world is something life-changing. They're here to solve a problem in the world. And when people get that type of knowledge inside them, early kids, then they go to class like, okay, let me get the tools, because I'm here as a solution driver, instead of somebody that they can just lock up because I can't sit still in class.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, no, okay, like what you're saying, it's like what I do for my kids. Like when I was in school, I always heard, you trying to be white. The Black students who were educating themselves, getting their work done, getting A's and B's, 3.8 average, you acting like white folks, because we're being conditioned that we are less than, we are inferior, right? So that's why I call the school system the food system, is because it is designed to empower them and not our children. So we learn about their cultural experiences, which a lot of them are lies, right? So we never tap into our ancestors' greatness and what they actually contributed to the world, their value to the world. You know what I'm saying? So because right now the school system is perpetuating low self-esteem to our children. That's another factor in dropping out. We don't see ourselves in these books. We don't see ourselves in these stories that y'all telling in school. Right? So when you understand who you are and where you come from and what value and the contributions that your ancestors made, it's going to empower you. So now when you go into that school, I am smart. You know what I'm saying? So now you're going to approach it in a different way, in a different method. That's the only reason why I'm not a teacher, because there's so many things that goes down into it, because I have a degree in secondary education, a bachelor's, where I can actually go and teach in a school, but I choose not to because there's so many different restrictions. So a lot of things, if I teach them about Imhotep was one of the multi-genius in North Africa, what we call Kemet, and Apocryphy, who the Apocrypha oath, he said he was the son of Imhotep, who they say this Greek is the father of medicine, but he telling you in his writings that he is the son. He was a Greek, but and Imhotep was an African, but he's saying that he studied, he followed these things, right? Even when you look at Yale and some of these other institutions, if you look at in their medical field, a lot of their medical field, they're studying certain African papyrus from back in the day when they was doing heart surgery, repairing the knee, you know what I'm saying, opening the skull, even the tools that they say that we were primitive, these tools we can show you that they're housing some of these tools, these African tools, when it comes to some of their medical things. So if we see our worth and our value, you know what I'm saying, and teach it, our children would approach it when they go to school a little bit better, right? You know, so I totally agree with what you're saying and what Dr. Akbar is saying.
And we have to get it so that we can pass it on. We keep skipping it ourselves because we don't want to tap in or we don't know anything about it. And honestly, I didn't know anything about Dr. Akbar, until I went to Pan-African Connection. So sometimes you may need to stay out of Barnes and Noble and find your local Black bookstore.
Dr. Wayne, guess what?
Local Black book. Let them see themselves in a different way. Change the visual. And Dr. Akbar talks about that. Even the visual of the Savior being white. You know, the imagery. We have to tap out of the matrix so that we can better prepare our children, because they're not prepared, because we not prepared to have these kinds of conversations about African psychology, because we don't know nothing about it. So y'all tap into everything Akbar got. Yeah. It's a little book, 60 pages.
Small joints.
This is a good place to start.
But Dr. Wayne, guess what? So I was in school for psychology, right? Bachelor and master. You asked me, how many Black psychologists did I learn my whole time in actual academia?
Talk about it.
No Naeem Akbar. You know what I'm saying?
What about Amos Wilson?
No Dr. Friends, no Dr. Amos Wilson. We can name a bunch of. So it took my, here we go again. It took my personal studies outside the classroom.
Here we go.
It took my personal being an autodidact. I'm a self-teach myself. Black and brown people in this field, because I'm not going to learn that across the halls of academia. Francis Craig Wilson. I can name all these names. Dr. Wade Nobles.
Check
We
it out.
can name all these Black thriving African psychologists and people that deal with that. And you are not hearing those names at school.
You're not.
I put that robe on to graduate. I put that graduation robe on multiple times. I didn't hear any of those names or faces. My job called. I gotta get out of here. My job calling me on the phone right now. We got part 2 coming up next month. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's been a fun show. As I anticipated, man. I'm gonna share it out. I'm gonna keep on watching the chat while I'm driving, but keep it going.
Okay, for sure.
All right.
And you know, again, a lot of our Black bookstores, they have programs. Shout out to Pan-African Connection, because they got all the statues. They have programs. You can see what Black farmers look like. Speaking of breaking the chains, we have to be able to change the visual. And here's the question on this section right here. Are we facilitating knowledge of self in our homes and in our community circles in order to prepare our legacy to be great thinkers and problem-solving ethnocentric humans? That's what I want the chat to answer. Are we facilitating that? And if we are, good, because again, in Dallas, we have a lot of spaces that are facilitating that. Shout out to the Academy of Dallas, where my friend Matthew works, doing great things. They still have a very vibrant Black history program. A lot of these schools don't even have Black history programs anymore. You know, they barely talk about 2 or 3 people for the month, and that's that. And some schools have thriving, you know, Black historical spaces, but we have to get into that. And are we facilitating it? Even if we aren't directly in the classroom, are we facilitating it at our libraries? Are we creating a place where people can come learn? We have to facilitate these conversations somewhere.
Yes, and you and just working with you, like it kind of motivated me to get back on the track, because when I first came home, I came back here and I can move back home in 2016. So I started meeting with a bunch of group of men. Started with 2 or 3, then it developed into like 12 people, and it had some women that was involved too. We had 3 or 4 women, and the majority of them was men. So I was trying to start a program, but I wanted other people to implement or build off the program that I had. So one of the, so it's a lot of things when it comes to a disconnect between the youth and the elders. But I also, so that was going to be a program on how to establish a relationship back with the elders and the youth, where the youth is respecting the elders, and the elders is respecting the youth. The youth is listening to the elders, and the elders is listening to the youth. But I also had a program, I can't remember the name of the program, but it was also a program where I was going to be sharing information from the past and even the present to give to the parents and even the teachers. I had some teachers that was willing to come when I facilitated this program. So there were things that the teachers didn't know that they thought that, that possibly they could try to implement into the school class to also empower African-American men and women, as well as Hispanic men and women, through our culture, what I'm saying, and sharing the contributions and the things that we have done and the things that has been stolen from us, things that has been copied from us, right? So it could empower so it could empower the youth, man. So we definitely gotta, we have to definitely tap into those spaces, or find those spaces, or create those spaces.
There you
know
go.
what I'm saying? Create those spaces, right? And I got discouraged from creating that space after it was time to do the work. I had got the 501c3. I got a tax ID number. So I got all of this, and even I had found the little a thing where I can get a little funding and get a building. But then we was gonna do projects where we was gonna get computers and stuff. But when it got time to do the work, I said I had about 12 or 13 people. I had 2 people that was left after when we sat this for, we did this for like 3 months. Every other week we went to this black-owned business called Chisholm. This guy loved us to come in, the business owner loved for us to come in. He give us a section in the back, and he will come and stand and listen, and he enjoyed us coming. I told him, every time we come, we're gonna make sure we patronize your business. We're gonna buy food, etc. So, and he enjoyed us coming. But when it got time to, after we got all that established, and it was time to put the boots on the ground and start actually putting in work and doing these things, man, everybody started having all kind of issues and problems, and it just dwindled down. It discouraged me. I said, the hell with it.
Let's renew that energy, because Kofi, what I've learned in these past years that I've been creating these experiences is that we disqualify ourselves. Well, if I'm not in the classroom, I can't make an impact. Well, if I don't have a nonprofit, I can't make an impact. If I don't work with, if I don't get funding, I can't make an impact. And that's not the narrative, especially going into this Renaissance era. We can create it. Maybe there's something at a park that you create, and you're gonna lay it out how you lay it out. But I'm speaking to the people. Whatever you can create, do it. And do it outside in the community where it's tangible. People can come to it. People can bring their kids to it. And even you don't have to have no full event. But like Kofi said, and that you can partner with a Black-owned restaurant and talk to them about what you want to do, and they may create a space and time for you. Shout out to Berkshire Farms Winery and a lot of other places in Dallas that have created space for me to create space for people. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we're gonna have to maneuver, because the classroom, that system gonna be like that. But what can we create on the outside? Maybe your 501c3 can be something after school, and then you have certain centric teachers to teach or create games and programs, because that's what we need right there for sure. But I do want to move on, though, for the sake of time. There's 2 other books I want to address real quickly. The Miseducation of the Negro by the great ancestor Carter G. Woodson, who was a historian. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and a little bit about something that I grabbed from this book that really stuck with me. So Carter G. Woodson is the father of Black History Month. Okay, you may not have heard that. Some of you know, some of you may not know. He is also founder of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, ASALH. So this organization was founded in the 30s, and it is still alive. I'm a part of the ASALH branch here in Dallas. But again, those of us in the chat, find ways to get connected with the elders. We're not talking about elders. Kofi already, so we talked about that in the modern day Griots. We're talking about true elders who are wise, who are very educated, but who also, are centric, and they understand how to talk to people, because we have a lot of elders who are like, nah, put the kids in jail. They don't, we ain't here. We ain't talking about.
Stay away from them.
But one thing that Carter G says is, when you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. Yes, sir. So here we go, going back to that psychological piece. What are we thinking? as parents and educators and community members, and how can we be thinking about ways that we can make solutions instead of just blaming, well, the kids, they don't know how to act and they don't, let's think of solutions, and we are the solutions, exactly what we're trying to tell the children. But one thing that I picked up from reading this book at our book club was that he said, when we create our institutions, why do we copy the whites? We need to be creative. Speaking of what you said, Kofi, and your ideas, that's exactly what Carter G said we need to be doing. We get the money, we get over here, we get the building, the business, all that, but then we want to look at what they doing and copy that and make our kids do that instead of something completely different that works for us. Yeah, we can do that.
That was a mistake that we made early on when we look at Brown versus the Board of Education. That was worst mistake. We wanted to copy them.
We wanted to just force ourselves into these systems that didn't do anything for us. And, those leaders figured that out, but it was too late. They had already been fighting for education. But in the context of school to prison pipeline, what outlets can we create for our children? Mentorship, after school, hobby facilitation. How can we bring out mental health or behavioral professionals into our spaces that support development? You know what I'm saying? Support so that students can have performance in the classroom, because we do need that, period. But also their overall intellect, their overall self-worth, self-esteem. And how can we teach them how to trick the system with their capabilities? So we need to, there's a lot that we can do to better arm our students and our kids to be successful and out of that goddamn pipeline. You know what I'm saying? And success is going to look different. In the last book I want to talk about is this one right here. This is an incredible read. For those of you who have read this, shout out to you. If you have not read this, read it. This book is written about George Floyd, R.I.P. George Floyd, but this talks a lot about the policy, because we're not trying to make excuses. Me and Sean talk all the time, and he was like, yeah, we talk about poverty, but in some of these houses where you fall through the floor, they got Wi-Fi, they got PS5, they got, you know what I'm saying? Resources. But poverty and environment is so important. Policy is an important conversation. Redlining is so important. And we don't talk about nutrition. It's something so important that we haven't had yet to talk about. I saw a post on Instagram where this doctor was saying all these snacks and stuff that we give our kids for breakfast, honey buns, little Debbie's, here, take you one of them, that actually contributes to ADHD. So there's so many levels. Access to medical care, access to therapists instead of just medication as far as behavioral therapy, rest and sleep. Are kids able to rest? Are they sleeping? Things like that we're not tapping into. And this book does a really good job of detailing all those things through George Floyd's life. And one thing too that it mentions is that our wealth was taken away from us because we had opportunities during Reconstruction. Just a little bit of history. We started owning land. We owned businesses. We had Black Wall Street. We had things that were stripped from us. So our kids, and that history is hidden. All of our great accomplishments are hidden. And a lot of our accomplishments happen in our families. Our great grandparents may have been the ones that had land, but we don't talk about those things. And George Floyd knew that his great granddad owned land, but we don't talk about stuff like that in our families. We don't have capacity for that. And so what happens is all this policy, all these city governments make these red lines to where you get the lower income schools. You don't get resources for books. You don't have outlets for, none of those after school programs, none of those fun electives that make school fun. You get the white teachers, but they already are not prepared to handle us as students. So you get the poverty, redlining, you get projects. We need to talk about gentrification, psychological manipulation, showing kids that they're probably dumb. And that's not true. Higher concentrated of police presence, as you mentioned, in targeting low literacy rates. We have very low literacy rates, low engagement, not all, but some. And so this book proves that policy is related to the outcome of George Floyd's life, believe it or not. policy. He grew up in Third Ward, Houston, in the hood. But we need to look at these things. It's not an excuse. We don't say, well, poverty, and we're not saying that as an excuse. We're not saying environment as an excuse. These are real life things that affect the productivity and performance of students. It's something we need to look at. We need to follow. And shout out to Robert Samuels. So these authors, Robert Samuels and Toulouse Olonaripa, are amazing journalists who wrote this book about George Floyd's life. Check this out. But we need to sidestep some of these excuses and really take a look into what traps our students in these systems. We need to support teachers. Hello. If they need if you know a teacher that could use some extra resources, you do that. Give it to them. Raise it for them. Whatever it is, we facilitate that upward mobility in these classrooms. Advocate for teachers, supply teachers, and be creative. Because again, this school to prison pipeline, sometimes we are funneling our kids. We don't want to admit that we're funneling our kids into it. But if we don't pay attention to things like the psychology and the manipulation, and we don't read and find out what history has done to us mentally, then we're just going to continue to funnel our kids into that system and then not know how to stop that school to prison pipeline.
Most definitely. Danny says he respectively disagree with it being hidden. I got a question for you, Danny. And I got a task for you if you're willing to do it. Go outside and stand somewhere where it's traffic at, or go to your local Walmart or your dollar store. Stand there and ask people, not the people inside your circle that knows these things, and go ask them about our rich culture. To ask them about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ask them about Asa Hilliard. Ask them about W.D. Du Bois. Ask them about Charles Carter G. Wilson and his organization. Ask them about the American Negro Academy, right? Ask them about the Unified African Academy. Ask them about a lot of different things that you'll be you'll be surprised that a lot of people don't know about these things that we're actually talking about. We get caught up that, okay, our colleagues that we hang around or we associate with, or even the spaces that we go into, of course we go to these spaces, they're going to talk about this, but the normal person does not know about a lot of these different things that we actually talking about. So it is a lot of people.
I didn't mean, I wanted to mention that too. Thank you for that moment. But even in Dallas, when they gentrify these areas, those used to be where we had thriving communities. And when you look at a certain area, I'll take Uptown Dallas, for example, it does not look like a thriving Freedman town that it was. You know what I'm saying? Because it's been covered up. So that's what I mean by hidden. There are so many levels to hidden, because again, a lot of people don't read. And I appreciate you saying that, because that does give, props to the people who know, because if you know, you know. But again, common knowledge. A lot of people from Dallas that don't know all the history of Dallas. You know what I'm saying? Even on a local level.
Black Egypt out there too.
With a group, it's ran by our elders. The Pinkers, they have it's called Hidden History Tour, and they take you all over Dallas and show you what we had, what neighborhoods, And then there's another book called The Accommodation, talking about the city. Again, we don't tap into that at all. And so there's so much room to grow and uncover and partner and work with people who know more than we do.
And not, I said Black Egypt, but Little Egypt out there in Dallas, a community that made Egypt. It's out there. It's not talk. It's a lot of people. I did a presentation on it about 2 years ago, and I had a bunch of people who contacted me. I just gave them all the resources that I collected the data from to put that presentation together. And they from Dallas and the surrounding areas of Dallas, Fort Worth, all those places, and they never heard of a Little Egypt, right? So there's a lot of things that is hidden, you know what I'm saying, that we have to uncover and find. We have been uncovered and find those who know. That's why we strive on this channel here. As I learn, we all learn, so as we learn, we definitely going to bring it back to the people and share it with our people, right? Let's get into the last segment, which is the woman's segment, and that is by my sister. So let's get into the last segment, which is the woman segment.
Thank you so much. And this is one of my favorite segments because, again, I get to highlight what Black women have done, are doing in the community, are doing for our community, are doing to really tap in to helping us understand what we can do and how we really outside. Kofi, can you show that first image?
I'm sorry. I didn't know if you wanted me to put it up or not. You didn't send it separate. You sent it to me separate?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't send it to you separate. My bad. Okay. So I want to talk about Dr. Uche Blackstock. Okay. Look her up. She has written a book called Legacy: A Black Physician Reckons with Racism in Medicine. Okay. She is a Black physician. She's a thought leader and a sought after speaker on bias and racism in medicine and healthcare. And because I'm in healthcare, we talked a little bit about diagnoses and ADHD and ADD and defiant these disorders. So I love to integrate some medical people into our fold, especially in the women's segment. So shout out to Dr. Uche. But she received both her undergraduate and medical degrees from Harvard University, making her and her twin sister Oni the first Black mother-daughter legacies from Harvard Medical School. And that says a lot to me because we have a lot of white families who are part of a long list of legacy of physicians. My dad's a physician. My granddad's a physician. My brother, we all got accepted in medical school. So I thought it was dope that her family was the first Black mother-daughter legacy from Harvard Medical School. But the neat part about her is she founded Advancing Health Equity in 2019, which is her company, with the goal of partnering with healthcare organizations to dismantle racism in healthcare and to close the gap between health disparities. Make sure you follow her because she's been on panels. She's been interviewed by news channels. People are really listening to her when she talks about racism and health disparities and things like that. Because a lot of times it gets discounted. When we talk in the medical facilities, in our doctor's offices, they don't really honor racism in medical care. They don't, and they don't want to address it or talk about it. So the fact that people are listening to Dr. Uche is monumental right now. And she's not the only doctor that's talking about racial issues. There are other Black physicians, but I did want to highlight her. She's also a former professor in the Department of Emergency Medicine and a former faculty director for recruitment, retention, and inclusion in the Office of Diversity Affairs at NYU School of Medicine. She signed a book deal in 2021, and she published this book in 2024, Legacy: A Black Physician Reckons with Medicine. She's been recognized by Forbes, American Medical Women's Association, and the NAACP Brooklyn chapter. Why is this conversation important? Because she's radical. She is radical. Dr. Uche Blackstock. We need to start, listening to our Black radicals. She's not somebody who graduated from a PWI and trying to tell us, facilitate more lives. She is a radical person, and people are listening to her. So that's why she is important to this conversation. And if you haven't read Medical Apartheid, this book that she wrote is probably the closest or the next best thing that you can read. I haven't read it yet, but she talks specifically on a news channel about,
How many pages in her book?
Listen, I don't know. I'm gonna have to check it out. I don't have it yet, but I've seen it at Pan African.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back down and check it out. But here's the thing: she brought up a topic that don't nobody want to talk about, which is grave robberies. Ooh. And how people used to rob graves for the segregated. What am I talking about? I'm having a brain fart. Not for you. Hold on. I'm having a brain fart. But they were going into these graves and digging up Black bodies for research, and sending them to the medical school graveyards. That's what I'm saying. Graveyard robberies. They were digging up Black bodies because at some point, the graveyards were segregated. Going digging these bodies up for medical research. I haven't heard anybody talk about that since medical apartheid. So that's what tells me that she's radical and she's really addressing some of these things that nobody wants to talk about. So that's why I feel like we need to tap into her work. And I cannot wait to do that. So the bottom line is, yes, we need care. If we have kids that have ADHD or ADD or defiant, we need care, but we need good care. And we need to know what it looks like to have an advocate for ourselves and our families in some of these spaces, like Sean mentions with the IEPs. It would be great to have, a nurse or a physician in there, with that conversation, or an advocate. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you're poor, rich, educated or not. We need to take care of ourselves and be aware of what's going on, because health is a topic we can't avoid discussion about. And that's why I'll leave. So y'all do some research, pull up Dr. Uche Blackstock on Instagram, follow her. Do like me, I'm about to tap into her book. I haven't read it yet, but we are here to talk about the school to prison pipeline today. But I do want you to keep that thought of, medicine in the back of your mind, because that is a huge part of what's going on in the world these days.
Yes, most definitely. I'm definitely gonna have to tap into a book. You mentioned she's talked about grave robbers. You ever heard of them digging up the graves, grinding up the bones and stuff, and making healing tonics out of it? They thought we was.
I didn't know
that. Look that up too. They was also doing that back in the days as well, making healing tonics out of it. I don't wrote so many darn books and covering so many books. I wrote about that. I can't remember which book I wrote about that. I can't even remember, but yeah, they was using, and they you can go Google it, and you can see the healing tonics and all that stuff that they was using. Yep. So it is by robbing the graves of black folks and grinding them up.
That's crazy. But
yeah.
That, so.
Yep, most definitely. So hope y'all enjoyed. We got to do a part 2. There's so many different variations and variables that we could talk about. We only touched on a few when it comes to the school to prison pipeline. So hopefully we'll be able to pull off part 2 with what, with the initial ideal that Sean and Dr. Wade came up with, which I love, by the way. So hopefully we'll be doing a part 2 to that next episode, where we'll be bringing some other professionals on the panel. So y'all be on the lookout for that, man. We appreciate y'all for tuning in to the Griots podcast, right? If you hadn't subscribed,
you went to the chat. Y'all was lit. We appreciate your support. We really do.
Yes, please go subscribe. If you hadn't subscribed to the channel, go subscribe. Some of y'all come on here and I see new faces and don't subscribe. So please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when the Griots podcast is finna get ready to go live and give y'all some of that information. Yeah, man, we greatly appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all time, because y'all could have been here. Y'all could have been doing anything else, man. So y'all tuned in, tapped in. We appreciate those popped in, popped out. We appreciate those who stayed the duration of the time. Our other co-host, Sean, we shout out to him. He had to leave a few minutes ago to go to work, so shout out to him. And man, let's give ourselves another round of applause, man. All right.
And don't forget to check out the book recommendations we dropped in the description.
Yes, it's a ton of book resources. That some of the things that we talked about is in the Russell name. A key at Saltfish Piece. He said that was good. You a new face, brother. Please go back and look at the other episodes in the archives, and also please subscribe. Dunning Williams, if you hadn't subscribed, please subscribe as well. Winifred, I don't know if she popped off her sister. If you had subscribed, please subscribe to the channel as well, man. But on that note, man, we're gonna leave y'all with our anthem song, and we are out of here.
Go, I'm in the city, yeah. I'm in the spot, in the vicinity. I'm the hottest up in the city, yeah, it really is. I studied the ones that was the realest, the illest, that invented that. Talking about Griots, West African passages for the street stone. Adios, Neo, make it get about the Afro-Latinos. Drop their traditions from Africa's West Central. Let's raise a toast to the ancestors of old. For the knowledge comes in the form of a griot, in the form of a griot.